Right. I think we'll kick off the um I'll start with the karakia. Me karakia tata. Kote kawa o runga, kote kawa o raro, kote kawa ora, kote kawa ora. E rongo whakairihi ki runga, turuturo whiti whakamaua kia tīna. Hui e taiki. Um, Relational intelligence, the leadership skill shaping our future learning. Perhaps, let's see if we agree with that today or not. Um, I love that you kind of there's a bit of a curveball because our reminders came so late that there's not that many people, but then like we'll get to chat with each other a little bit. I'll promise I'll do most of the talking if that's what you want. We'll see. We'll see. People come to webinars for different expectations. But yeah, the I was kind of prepared to talk more for educators, but I love that it's actually a different audience. Yeah, curveballs are good. But yeah, I don't know if you've met me before. Ko Milla inkilä. Taku ingoa no Fiinarana ahau, kei Academy EX taku mahi, kei Kirikiriroa ahau e noho ana. It's quite rainy here in Kirikiriroa in Hamilton right now. Um, um, so yeah, that's where I live. Accent comes from Finland, and it's still quite strong after 12 years being in Aotearoa. I've been working for Academy EX or the Mind Lab that we used to be called the whole time that I've been living in New Zealand. But yes, the I work for the MCE program, but I sometimes have things to do with the other programs as well. And kia ora, Kate. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Just starting, I just did my mihi. Um, just told that I'm joining today from Hamilton. Whereabouts are you, Kate, today located?
Oh, kia ora koutou. Aroha mai for being late. I'm joining from Whaingaroa, Raglan.
Ooh, yeah. Ah, bye. Do you work in education or somewhere else, or do you study with us, or are you just
No,
otherwise here?
I don't yet study with you, and
Uh-huh.
I am a consultant evaluator.
Ooh, I love that. There's a bit of a different audience than what I usually have. So yeah, if I talk too much about teachers, then yeah, you have to. Actually, this is well, this next question. This is kind of I'm starting with. I talk about students here because that's what we assumed that we'll have today. That we'll have educators joining a lot today's session. How do we make this fit you? I know the next question will fit you anyways, but this one you could well, actually, imagine students. You know students. You know someone kids that are in schools. What do you think they need from their educators right now? What what do they need? You can even think about as parents if you want to. But yeah, what do you think kids need from educators in 2026? Perhaps more than ever. Could be similar things that they've needed before, but because of what the world is like, what do they need? So either slido.com and that code in or using that QR code. I'll put a little bit of music on and we'll see where we'll kind of start before I start to talk about relational intelligence. Let's see what's actually needed. Oops, there. Ooh, and now that there starts to be words, if you want to kind of do the same one, you can click or add a new response and start to write the same one, and then it suggests so that it makes that a bit bigger in our word cloud if you realize that there's some good suggestions there. Here, I'll go and choose some of your answers to brilliant answers. Um, Yeah. Oh, encouragement, the feeling that they matter, time, trust, guidance, support, empathy, the feel that they belong, patience, feeling safe. Oh, oh, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Um, when I chat with our staff members who are teaching, for example, teachers or teaching adults like you, some of you are our students, um, some of the things that, or the most common, I think, things that what our adult educators are coming and adult students are coming for us are that they want to feel more confident in in 2026, for example, whatever it is that they need more confidence. Could be technology, could be AI, could be, but could be even just leading change, could be more confident of creating new connections, new relationships that matter, or finding the path that matters to them, whatever it is. But it's really heartwarming and humbling also then to get the feedback that that's what they get as an outcome. That's confidence is, for example, the most commonly mentioned word in our student feedback, that it is an increased confidence in something that matters to them. But then the connection, it's really, really interesting. And that's even if our masters and postgrads, all of those are quite future focused and so on. And then we come here for this. Could be even that we can do that remotely with each other, that we can connect, that we can find like-minded souls that inspire us. And it's actually that real human connection, which is so seems to be so important to learning. Is it? This is now for you. Um, what do you need from your leaders? And of course, you can, as leaders, you can think about even us if you are studying with us, but your workplace, what are the things that you need from your managers and leaders right now in 2006 and in the future, perhaps? Yeah, same thing, something you need more of, maybe even something that you needed before too, but now you need that even more. I'll put again music on and let's see. We think about leadership in particular. What are our needs? Good. Oh, that looks interesting. There's some things, perhaps some things are a bit similar even to that previous one. Um, but yeah, or I would argue that these are the things that students in school also need from their teachers, definitely. And yeah, the hope for the future. So interesting how important it is, regardless of our age, how important it is. I don't know if you were there a couple of weeks ago, I did a session on systems thinking, and I was talking about this book, which is unfortunately in Finnish, but it's about systems kind of thinking in education. It happens to be my old colleague and then old gosh, I did my practicum when I was a primary school teacher, studying become one in Finland. And she talks in this book how, yes, about kind of changing systems and getting systems to work, but then the most important thing is to create hope in education, that that's the teacher's most important thing. And I guess, yeah, interesting that we adults come to the same, like it's the same thing in workplaces, same thing as if we study as adults. Yeah, humility, support, yet another one that, yeah, is brilliant that we get in our feedback that's what we where we try to do our best. Support definitely helps. Respect, acknowledgement, collaboration, safety in here too. Uh, Feedback, encouragement, communication, ability to listen. Yay, thank you. I don't know, did you think about now today's topic in particular? That did you make this really easy for me to make kind of the bridge here to the topic? But these are quite, yeah. Most of these fall under relational intelligence. But yeah, I'll start to talk about that now. Not sure if you are familiar with the topic, but kind of moving now to leadership. Um, that word trust was there, interestingly. And I don't know if you've seen this, DDI, Development Dimensions International, makes global leadership kind of forecast reports. And the newest one for 2025, employee trust in the immediate managers fell like quite dramatically, some could say. That in 2 years it dropped from 46% to 29%. And at the same time, people are kind of learning and studying about leadership more and more, and there's kind of all these models. But then, like the trust is quite a important thing. Of course, like is it harder to trust nowadays than what it was before? Is it, yeah, what's causing that? But regardless, that's what we want, and at the same time, we feel that we get less of that. Hmm. The That same report then showed results, quite interesting results if you are in a leadership position, which we, by the way, the reason that I think that those two questions, like what do students need from their teachers and what do we need as adults from our managers and leaders, are quite similar because we see that teachers are actually leaders in their classroom. They're the managers and leaders, so it's quite similar and human things that we need. But so trust, they talked about how employees with managers who actively support their development are 11 times more likely to trust their manager. So how these link with the other things that actually some of these you mentioned. Feedback, yes. Employees who receive feedback from their manager are 9 times more likely to trust their manager. And employees with managers who are effective coaches are 9 times more likely to trust their managers. And perhaps many of the things you mentioned actually relate to good coaching. So, yeah, might be an interesting report, anyways, to look at if you haven't looked at that before. Um, they also listed these ones. So, same report. Leaders can strategically rebuild trust by consistently practicing these 4 key behaviors. Quite simple, but not always easy. Listen. Again, you mentioned that. Listen and respond with genuine empathy. That was perhaps in the student one, the empathy. Encourage others to speak up without fear or uh, making mistakes or negative consequences. Share thoughts, rational for decisions. Um, so perhaps that transparent communication would fall under that one. Encourage others to challenge old ways of doing things. Um, I think, I don't know, was that mentioned there? But that's perhaps one of those things that definitely helps, that we can challenge the status quo, that if we feel like we're trusted, then we have the courage to be creative and innovative to um, even, yeah, fail, which is likely if we are trying something new and then little by little succeed. Yep. Um, so this perhaps these are the words that you came here for, relational intelligence. What is that? Um, this is the person that I've read the most when it comes to relational intelligence. Really, really interesting person, Isabel C. Ho. And she's a French-born, she's an educator, author. She works for Stanford. Oh, where do I have it? At the Accelerator for Learning at Stanford University. So what she does, she combines brain science, technology, social innovation. She talks about education, kind of equitable learning opportunities for everyone. And her background is in early education, but she kind of talks about that all the way through adult education, work-based education. I tend to fall in love with that sort of people. I don't know, is it because like I used to teach little kids and I studied to become a primary school teacher. Then I jumped to IT and I worked in IT with software developers for, I don't know, 6, 7 years, quite a long time before I then kind of wanted to go back to education. And yeah, ended up working here for Academy EX. Um, but there's so many things that make, for example, learning good for little kids that actually relate to us adults just as well. Um, but yeah, of course, we mainly talk about the people in between those primary, secondary school uh, kids, but definitely early educators and adult educators should be perhaps even listened more. But the interesting thing about her is also that she works really, really closely with AI researchers, and she's kind of part of different groups. So she brings kind of AI into that, and she's kind of saying that, all right, AI is beginning to transform education at Academy EX just as well. It is changing how we work, how it's changing our social life. So um, she's saying that we need even more to focus on our expanding kind of our human capacities, those ones that are essential for human flourishing. I think that's what she usually calls that. And this is one interesting kind of that she's thing that she's done. You can go to that tiny URL, or I might pop this also. Copy the link to the chat. Interesting table where she has tried to map um, kind of, she's synthesizing from different research. She's looked at evolutionary kind of anthropologists, what have they written? She's looked at, yes, brain and cognitive science. She's looked at education and different kind of human intelligences through different phases of our humankind, from kind of biological to social, through language and culture, analytical thinking, and kind of where we are in our AI mediated world. And she's saying that the next kind of stage uh, she suggests is the relational intelligence. That's what we need to focus on. So that comes to our capacity to trust, to our capacity with other human beings to collaborate, to create meaning together. Such an interesting, and I find it inspirational, that yes, we definitely need those. And we know sometimes it's easier to see and look at those younger kids and realize that that's what they need. And many times when we're like, for example, educators come to us and they say that kids need to think critically, more critically. And then they fall into that, and it takes like a couple of sentences after that. I'm like, all right, where did you get that idea? And I'm like, I read it somewhere. I'm like, oh yeah. It's it's many times we need to look into the mirror. It's like, yeah, our own critical thinking that regardless how old we are, we need the same thing. But yes, that's these things are what's behind what we're going to talk today about. And this is one list from her. So she's written the Welcome to the Era of Relational Intelligence. And she says that what she's talking when she's talking about relational intelligence, she's talking about building trust, being able to read and respond others, navigating tension, which happens the more we spend time together, the repairing relationships also, how important that is, and creating meaning together, which is, yeah, possible when we learn together. Um, One of the reasons I think that kind of explains why we push many of our students to do collaborative assessments, which is, gosh, that's harder. It's so much easier to do something by yourself, and then no one is saying like, all right, why that and not this? Oh. Um, the I studied my own second master's with Academy EX, so I jumped into the waka of embracing Ako. I had my master's, and then I realized that I need these things to do research well, and I did our Master of Change and Organizational Resilience. And when I started that back in the day, it was funny, first collaborative assessment, and I was actually really bad at it. Really, really bad. And I've been teaching for, I don't know how many years at that point, 7, 8 years about collaboration. And I like, yes, kind of, I tried to board, for example, bring the collaborative practices like all the agile methods and so on from the IT world to education and all that. And yet, when I was put into the pressure of like, all right, now you have to learn together and you have this time and you need to produce something, things happened in my personal life. And then I became really bossy and I got like really, really bad at collaboration, like extremely bad. What a learning experience. Brilliant. But it's yeah. Um, One of the reasons that we can do this is that we are also, most of our assessments are competency based, which is a bit easier than to like imagine that we need to get 98% of something. That it's a bit easier on competency based. But yeah, creating meaning together definitely helps to power our learning. And of course, in Aotearoa, what we're kind of talking about could be that we are talking about whakawhanaungatanga, building meaningful relationships, building connections. Um, I think kind of relational intelligence is perhaps a Western way of prescribing and yeah, trying to define the importance of whakawhanaungatanga. Um, this is something that we've realized now that we've been teaching adults for a long time. We pretty much started when 12 years ago, we were teaching first kids. We taught coding, robotics to kids, and then the first adult intake came in of teachers when I arrived, like 2 weeks after that. Woo! Um, the longer we've done this, the more we've seen that there is even more need for this to learning to actually happen. That the more we spend time making sure that we build those connections, we know those people that we are studying with, the better outcomes we'll get. Um, Definitely not just a soft skill, but quite a foundational thing for also for good leadership. But yeah, effective collaboration at workplace, wherever. We need whakawhanaungatanga to bring change, but also to sustain change. So yeah, the important part of learning. I've made a or AI generated because I've used the AI voice that I tend to use most often. Here, so since you've been listening to me for a while now, um, a story, which is one that um, Isabel uses. And yeah, um, The task that I'm asking after this is that because I thought you would be just educators, I said that after hearing this story, what is the one reminder about the power of relationships that you would want to carry into your teaching practice tomorrow? But I'd say perhaps change it into a work practice, if that's, yeah, just work practice. Of course, you can think about it as a, yeah, educational practice or learning practice as such easily if you are studying with us. But here we go. Listen to this first. Here we go. Maybe you'll hear it soon now.
Every morning at 74th Street Elementary School in South Los Angeles, a small figure walks briskly through the front gate. Her name is Linda Ricks. She's a retired office manager and lifelong community advocate. She carries no special credentials, tablet, or teaching manual. What she brings instead is presence. Ms. Ricks is one of the volunteers in Gen X, Generation X Change, a program that pairs older adults with elementary school classrooms in neighborhoods where both children and elders often feel unseen. Her role is simple: to listen, to guide, to remind students that they matter. In one of those classrooms sits Celeste Medal, a fourth grader with bright eyes and quiet determination. I feel like I know somebody is counting on me, she says, and I know that somebody knows I can do it. The somebody is Ms. Ricks. Together they represent what might be the most underappreciated innovation of our time, the power of human relationships to ignite human potential. Over the past decade, Gen X classrooms have seen increased reading scores and improved behavioral outcomes in students. Gen X also reports in its volunteers increased positive well-being, a sense of purpose, improved physical health, and even weight loss linked to greater physical activity. As artificial intelligence grabs headlines and investment dollars, Ms. Ricks and Celeste are practicing an intelligence that cannot be automated. It's the intelligence of attunement, of care, of knowing, and knowing how to know each other. We might call it relational intelligence, the deeply human ability to build trust, navigate tension, repair ruptures, and create meaning with others. And it may be quietly rising as the defining skill of our age, the essence of what it means to remain fully human in a world increasingly governed by algorithms and automation.
There. Of course, like if you know me, I love algorithms and I love, yeah, automation and AI. Uh, but after hearing that story, what is one reminder, or even two or three, you can write many if you want to, about the power of relationships that you want to carry into your practice tomorrow? Yeah, just whatever practice, work practice. And now that I put music on, it's not just me hearing the music. You'll hear it too, don't you? Yep, yeah.
No, unless I'm deaf.
No? Yep, there's some thumbs up, yeah. I think Lisa is you have to check that you have your hearing. Yeah. Brilliant. There's many there. Yay. Yay. There's kind of this. I love that story, kind of how like human connections, yeah, holding space to each other. Oh, like that's how we build trust, encouraging each other, caring and yeah, belonging. How important it is that someone sees us like important for us adults as well. Oh yeah, indeed. And yes, it's AI is quite good at that too. It's kind of making us feel even a bit too good many times, like you know that it's a puppy if we don't actually say that. No, please criticize or critique, perhaps not just criticize, but critique, maybe a better word. Um, but yeah, it is quite good on doing that, but it feels a bit more meaningful when it comes to a from a real human being. Um, what I wanted to talk a little bit about is that there's um, many times when we talk about human development, we kind of talk about cognition a lot, but then humans definitely, we have evolved through centuries also with connection. So that's what many relational intelligence researchers are talking about, that for true learning, we need cooperation, we need collaboration, which perhaps goes even deeper, which is a bit messier than just cooperation, us doing our own thing and then bringing it together. If we actually do the messy thing of learning together and creating something together, perhaps even better. We learn by someone showing us things as kids, but also as adults. And yes, there's that whole kind of history that they've looked at, that we've developed languages and cultures and knowledge. But many times it is that kind of like we know here in baskets of knowledge, that it is about shared. What do we share and what do we all bring into the table? And perhaps knowledge even is something that we do something with to benefit other human beings or the planet. Um, so yeah, it's not just our brain size, but our ability to learn together. Um, the there's many people kind of saying that the more technology, the more it advances in our relationship, that they would be less important. But then now there's people saying that actually it'll come more important. Um, and our brains are wired for belonging. This you can, for example, read more from Matthew Lieberman on that. It's if you think about human development, it's one of those things, you know, that if child can't connect, like kind of that Linda Rix's story explained that also and reminded us perhaps that if there's no one person who you can trust who's not there for you, you know how much that then affects even our brain development. That's what unfortunately lack of relationships does for us. And yes, that continues to be an important part also our adult life. Um, and learning is fundamentally relational. This is something that our Master of Contemporary Education master students in particular tend to always realize when they are doing change projects in their practice. So I showed here a couple of examples, and I could have chosen any, and just as well from MTF and MCore, but relationships and relational intelligence, that's quite the key to any change or learning. Um, just to mention a few, the first one actually, I mentioned that being a student and being a really bad collaborator, like Amber, who just finished her Master of Contemporary Education, she was actually doing like she did the Change for Good back with me in how many years ago? Actually, 5 years ago. Yes, I can count because we've had a new family member for 4.5, because we got that during that collaboration. Oranga Tamariki called and said that, oh, would you like to have another child? So that kind of threw me, perhaps, and I used that as an excuse that I was such a bad collaborator. But I guess I wasn't too bad because Amber then trusted me and became a student of mine, even if we studied that. Then she came and did MCE also with me, which was funny to talk about that bad experience and then realizing that she's there. She still trusts me. So you can repair, definitely. Trusting collaboration as well. But the amazing Mahi that what she did as her master's, um, she looked at kind of, she reimagined secondary arts, visual arts teaching and education. Like, what would it look like if it would be deep relational, if it would be based in indigenous knowledge, different or indigenous in different parts of the world. I think it was Canadian that she looked at, and not just Aotearoa. Um, she looked at like, what if we prioritize belonging, shared meaning making, cultural identity, and not just standardization or compliance that we unfortunately look at too much. What if we don't look at just the artistic outcomes, but what if we look at that importance of trust, importance of students to have agency, that doing things collectively, um, actually true learning happening. And that just amazing, Mahi. All of these ones that I'm now talking about are in Heroro in the newest symposium proceedings. There's a summary of all of those. So there's one from Amber. Then there's, I wanted to share an example, one from Christine and Joanne, just because they even collaborated with they didn't do kind of individual mahi with their masters, so they collaborated. That's them matching even on the symposium when they were presenting. I asked to take a picture of them, and they looked at also culturally responsive. They looked at digital blended and flipped learning. What would it look like? But yes, they wanted to improve student engagement, learning engagement, but also belonging. And yes, it was about achievement for Maori and Pacifica, but they realized that they can't start with the technology. They have to start with trust, whakawhanaungatanga, talanoa, reciprocity, genuine care that was on that kind of video, to really, truly create the opportunities for learning. And gosh, they succeeded. What amazing, what amazing co-constructed kind of masters that they did. Um, but yeah, it was relationships was in the center of everything that they did, and yeah, it was just so beautiful. Um, Pauline Dawson then looked at more kind of how AI enhanced learning. Even in that, really interestingly, student identified that the relationships with the teacher was the key driver for motivation and engagement in 2025. I'd say that was when Pauline was actually doing that. So, such interesting things. And if I add my own there, because now I can, because you're not just MCE students or future MCE students, my own MCore research, I looked at gender inclusion. So I looked at trying to understand where teachers are and what could we do to support them so that students, regardless of their gender, could feel like they belong, that they feel safe. All of these exact things that we're talking about today. And I assumed before I did, for example, I did a survey, open survey for educators of any level. I assumed that age would matter, how old they were. I thought that kind of the younger the teacher, the more open-minded they are. And then I thought, even if like, as I said, my background is in primary teaching, but I thought that perhaps primary teachers are not as knowledgeable as what secondary teachers are, because at that point, if you're trans or non-binary or takatapu, you start to speak up because could be that what happens in your body doesn't match who you are, and it's kind of more obvious. Or if the adult educators, that there's adults who shake the system a bit more to include everyone. And then surprisingly so, it wasn't that. Age didn't matter. And I did a lot of testing and like, oh, Jamovi was the one that I used, and no connection there. Um, and the level that they taught, no connection. The only connection, the only thing that mattered was that did they actually know someone? Did they know someone who was trans? Did they know someone who was intersex perhaps or takatapui? Did they, if they knew a real human being, if they've realized that they've actually had a student, they've had a trans student or intersex student or gender fluid or takatapui, uh, then they were open to learning, and then they realized that they also need to learn more. Even if they perhaps their knowledge was higher than other people, they still said that they are really eager to learn more. So it was the relationships that mattered the most. Yeah, quite quite interesting, and it was really good to also to crash my assumptions and realize that no, it wasn't that. Of course, the tricky thing is that if the place is not safe, how do you get those connections? Because if your classroom, for example, is the workplace is not safe, they're not going to tell you because we all like if you're an educator, you've had trans students, like statistically, you've definitely have many. Depends on how long you've been teaching, how many, but yes. And the same thing with workplaces. Like there's, intersex and takatapui and non-binary people there. Definitely how openly they can show that at work. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But yeah, safety creates then more safety and then more learning. Eh, But yeah, interesting things there. And of course, Heroro, there's also other interesting research if you want to have a look at what sort of projects have people done. And if you are, by the way, interested of what sort of projects are happening at Academy EX on the other program, we have the Converge coming up next week's Friday. So come to the office if you are in Auckland. That's a brilliant day to hear what are the stories like currently. Um, the Hmm, do these fit to workplaces? You can now test because I wrote these from a education point of view. Um, Perhaps I'd say that this applies to, like, we know this about kids, more connected, but less relational. It's like, yes, we are kind of super connected with each other, but it's not that deep. Loneliness, it's so, counterintuitive that it's rising globally at the same time. Um, I guess same thing applies to workplaces that we are not just delivering content, we are designing relational environments, regardless what you're actually creating and your workplaces and the solutions, they need to be also relational. But yeah, in education, it definitely applies to every day, but leadership, you can definitely see that happening there. Um, the There's fewer relational moments, unfortunately, fewer conversations, because more and more the things that we do, and this is again for us adults as well, that it's mediated. So there's social media messaging, AI tools, more and more that it is happening. Um, but yeah, you know this, how important it is then to stop and talk with real people. Um, the the thing that we have to remember, which many people say, is kind of that, yes, the real people, we need to then be okay with the discomfort of the not knowing. We need to be okay. There's more misunderstandings, even if, like with AI, there's a lot at this point, but there's going to be less and less. But human beings, there's even more. And uh, we're quite good at repairing those with AI, but remembering that also with human beings. There's interesting things like I've noticed last kind of decade or so, there's more and more interest in education for the nonviolent communication. I don't know if you've heard of that, but that kind of has become a trend again, which is the Marshall Rosenberg's ideas. And yeah, so designing interaction instead of isolation, I guess the same applies to any leadership thing as well. And yes, we can do that in breakout rooms here, just as well. Then just doesn't have to be face to face, but it's beautiful if we can make it face to face. And um, we need relational safety. We need that to be able to take risks. And this is what kind of links to what you said about what you need from your leaders, because we know mistakes are part of learning. disagreement is healthy. Repairing builds relationships. And we to be truly innovative, meaning that we actually put our creative ideas into practice, we have to be okay to be okay with taking risks. Um, I don't, yeah, I've, I tend to know, I don't know, is it because I teach teachers nowadays? I used to work when I was in IT, I worked with people in all different industries and walks of life. Um, are teachers were like worse risk takers than other ones? I don't know. Is it just because I've been working with them and I realized how tricky it is to take a risk as a teacher? Which I always think that it's so funny because that's what we need for learning. How can we be so bad at that? But because and then the other thing about, and I don't know, you're not teacher, so you could actually can prove me wrong or right here. One thing that I always thought about, kind of perhaps while I was an educator, I thought that we're really good on kind of our social skills are really, really good. But then I was surprised when I moved to IT and I started to work with those software engineers that I thought that are not good at that, but actually their ability to, for example, solve things with each other was amazing. Yes, different kind than with educators, but they were perhaps even better, especially handling kind of tricky situations and then finding solutions to tricky problems. And hmm, I don't know. What is it, or is it just that we as human beings are less like we are afraid to take risks, all of us, or is it just educators? What do you think? Any thoughts?
So, uh, to what you just say, I'm from the IT industry. Yeah,
Hmm.
I can share my experience. Yeah, because like IT or technology people, they have different mindset. It's more logic. It's
Yep. Yep.
straightforward talking. Sometimes they don't understand the business people or the
Mm,
end user. So they talk in advantage, something like technical language. So when you come to that group, you may not understand them, and they may not don't understand you as well. But the thing is, the personality of those of people is like mostly honest and straightforward. Yeah,
true. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
simple. It's just like AI machine, like just a bullet point to say something about the topics. So for
Yeah.
if you want to solve a problem in your life or in your business, they can quickly give you the solution with bullet point. Yeah, they don't want to
Indeed.
talk a lot of things, the context or the pros and cons, for example. Yeah,
Yeah. But I
yeah.
guess that's what you said actually there is that it's the what I was so positively surprised is that eagerness of wanting to help people. Because that's many times like this, for example, that like people assume that, for example, that you're a software engineer or you kind of that it's kind of just ones and zeros and it's kind of logic and so on. But it's the logic is still there. The same exact want to help other people is what actually motivates that, which is that was just like so heartwarming and amazing to see. Like the if since I was the one kind of speaking in between, yes, those customers and then the and the
Yeah, yeah,
kind of being there, and then like it was just amazing the amount of work that people were willing to put into. And it was always for the goodness of other people, making something easier, making something better for others.
yeah, right, right.
Mm.
Most of them are introvert
It,
style. Even me,
mm,
yeah. I like
yeah,
to help people. I like to give the solution or do some supporting, something like that. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
it is true. And
indeed.
what we need to help those kind of people is like we need to understand their personality, their language as well. Yep.
Mm, mm. And I guess there's so
And
many people saying that we're not just either or the introverts and extroverts, that we kind of need, we all need
mm,
kind of like how much of what do we need differs, but we're not kind of just black and white. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah. Beautiful. Thanks, then.
thank you.
Anyone else wanting to share relating to, yeah, any of that risk taking, for example? Are we good risk takers? as a, yeah.
But I think maybe in New Zealand we're not really risk takers. I think we're very laid back when it comes to relational too, and I think with education, I've found that they tend not to try and shake the boat too much. We stay kind of in our lanes and we don't really step outside too much. And I think now's the time more than ever, with all the changes happening too, that we need to really jump out of that boat and make some really serious changes towards how we're relating to students, relating to each other as educators, but also in response to government changes. I think there needs to be more of a, hey, what can we do about that too? That's all part of the relationship, right?
Yeah, because there's like, if I talk about these things with educators, people like they know that this is exactly, yes, we know this is what matters. And as I said, like that's any masters, regardless how future focused it is, regardless how technical it is that we need to build connection moments, then we need to make thinking social, slow down relationships, design for co-creation, even protect device-free moments. Kind of these are the things that the teachers are talking about and they're thinking about, and they have really, really strong opinions and they see what the kids are actually needing. But then, like, do we actually then, speak up? Because it is risky also to speak up, extremely risky. So, yeah, I think a couple of weeks ago, it actually went quite political when we talked about changing systems and shaping systems. So, that's actually beautiful. Well, I last one, because is relational intelligence the leadership skill shaping our future learning? My last question is this one. Now, from all of the things that we talked about today, what is a small shift you could take or make this week to build trust, or next week? Trust, connection in your classroom, in your workplace. What could it be? A little bit more music and then listen, 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 indeed. Celebrating disagreements. Beautiful. Good. Oh, it's actually the one interesting test is I might pop that, Nikki, when we send the video of the recording of the session, and then kind of an email. Maybe I'll put one test there. You can do that test afterwards, relating to what we what we talked about. As always, I'm improvising. Me. I wanted to finish. Lisa is here too. I know some of you are studying with us already, but if you want to come, like we're talking here in particular about our masters on education programs, but of course the other ones are there too. If you happen to know any educator, push them towards us too. Could be your kid's teacher or whoever. So we do have scholarships for educators, and this is the one which is the most interesting right now for educators, that there's only 500 left to pay if they want to do, which is the part one of our masters, which is postgraduate certificate in digital and collaborative learning, it is about that leading change as well, shaking educators that they have the courage to speak up and do those changes they want to do in their practice, because we have just amazing educators. And I think whakawhanaungatanga is one of the things that educators actually do really well in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and it's the one that we need to cater and keep safe and understand the importance of that even in the future even more. So yeah, that's one scholarship. And then of course for the Master of Contemporary Education, there are scholarships that relate to the other masters too. So Lisa, there's your contact details there that people can call you.
Thank you. So really, really briefly, we have the Educators Scholarship for Registered Teachers. It's a really special scholarship. It is in response to we're aware of what teachers are having to carry, and we know the program helps. So it leaves, the program's normally 3,625, it leaves a balance of 500. But for those who have done the postgrad, there is a limited number of 50% scholarships for the July intake, and the scholarship close date is the 29th of June. We are all here to support you, so please reach out if you have any questions. Have a beautiful evening. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. I had my last quote because 2 weeks ago when I talked about systems thinking, I finished with Moomin, the kids' book. So this time around, I thought I'll use my other favorite, The Little Prince. And on the same page where the fox talks about the rose, it's the anything essential is invisible to the eyes. It's the same page where the fox talks about that. And then Little Prince has taken really good care of the rose, and then they talk how it's the time you spend on your rose that makes your rose so important. And yeah, same applies to us human beings. The more we spend time, even if it's those like small things that matter, like some of you said, that it's like a really tiny, tiny thing that actually makes the biggest impact. So yeah. And if you need us, if you're studying with us, we're here for those small moments. So remember, that's really, really important for us too. So yeah, thanks for joining today. And yeah, lovely if you have been viewing the recording. You have a good day too. So close us with the karakia. Ka whakairia te tapu kia wātea ai te ara. Kia turuki whakataha ai, kia turuki whakataha ai. Haumie huie, ai kie.
Thank you, Milla. Ka kite.
Ka kite.
Thank you.
Kia ora.
Thank you, Zen, so much for sharing.
Yeah, because I wanna discuss or sharing about the how we build a connection, how we build a relationship. It's not just like listening or understand, but somehow for the new young generation, we need to talk in their language as well. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, because like the young people, they will say some slang, they will use the language, and also they're interested in something that don't in our generation mind. Yeah, they like TikTok or like they like YouTube or something that we need to catch up as well. Yeah, yeah,
Which is a true lifelong learning. Yeah, they push us to that.
yeah, right.
Definitely.
Because I have experience in teaching the children at family and also like the staff in my previous works. Yeah, so they're afraid to talk. They're afraid to share. Yeah, if they don't understand, they don't want to talk. Yeah, and if we don't like understand their story, they just keep silent. If like people don't have the same mindset or the same interesting, they don't like to hang around with each other than the work or the study topic, something like that. So I think about when the AI come, AI talk in the people language with the personality. So somehow AI can help all of us that to understand each other more. Personality,
indeed.
language, and interesting. So that provide the information for each other to build the trust, to build a connection.
Indeed, indeed. And we have like more and more, like you said, kind of language. Like we have like the English as a second language or third or fourth, but we're gonna have even more. Like we have like we know that about Aotearoa, how multicultural we are, extremely multicultural. So that's a really, really important aspect of that. But then the interesting, like even just the whole like doing a mihi Like what I love about Aotearoa is that actually we don't have to talk that much where we're from, where we've been, what do we like, that we start to see the connections regardless of our age, that we are actually more similar than what we are different, but it takes a little bit of time to find those connections. And yeah, it is so important because you don't have to talk that's the beauty
Yeah.
of also like a very small country that there are connections
Yeah.
and there are things that
And the things we have to um, place the position of that perspective of viewing, like the point of view of that person to understand as well.
Yeah, indeed. And maybe that, and that's quite um that's a learnable skill also. But it is kind of that, like exactly like you explained, kind of that there's a bit of a like you kind of you put yourself in a really vulnerable position whenever you do
Yeah.
that. You kind it is kind of, and being okay with that vulnerability of
Yeah.
opening yourself and getting to know new people.